Are you looking to provide a better sales presentation and process for your technicians and customers? What's up, blue collar business owners? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Maskler, where we focus on helping guide you to have a prosperous blue collar business. Today, we have with us David Zhao. David is the co-founder of Pika, building the next generation sales platform for home service contractors. Before starting Pika, David was an AI researcher at Microsoft, Stanford, and the VA, and led product management for utility services at Google. So that is David Zhao. Welcome, David. Thank you so much for being here. What is going on today?
Not much, not much. It's a beautiful sunny day out here in California. Thank you so much, Paul, for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, excited to have you on. Excited to talk AI, Pika, all the things that you're doing to help our listeners out there. So just give our listeners kind of a quick rundown into how you got to where today. How did Pika start? And we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So some additional context here. My dad, growing up, actually worked for a very large HVAC and appliance manufacturer. So my family wasn't directly in the trades. I've never been a contractor myself, but always grew up kind of adjacent to hardware and home services. And for frankly, just taking apart stuff, I really pissed off my parents in that I would take apart a refrigerator, I'd take apart our microwaves. Probably shouldn't have been doing that at my age growing up, but always was really interested in just that intersection between physical things and how it impacts our day-to-day lives. I ended up going to school for computer science, thought I was actually going to go into academia, get a PhD in AI, but had the misfortune of graduating into COVID. So did not want to do online schooling. So thought I'd try my hand at entrepreneurship, learned a lot. It didn't go super well. So ended up needing to pay the bills. Went to Google, was a product manager there for about 2.5 years. And that's how I kind of got my way into the HVAC and the trades world. Was working at Nest, which I know full well is a bit controversial in this space. And I apologize for some of the hassle and especially setup and usage, but I was focused primarily on our utility and grid partnerships there at Nest, so a bit of a different component of the platform than the standard smart thermostat. But during my time there, I actually got to work very closely with our Nest pros, our Nest contractors, our Nest contractor partners. And this was right around the time when I actually, my AC unit failed. Hottest day of the summer out in California. I was really uncomfortable. And I just remember calling a bunch of folks in to my house. I made the mistake of going on to Thumbtack and Angie and got a bunch of folks who just came in, absolutely highballed me on price. But one thing I noticed was that it was primarily pen and paper. These were incredibly affable, just great people. I had great conversations. But when it came to actually selling to me, when it came to actually giving me a presentation on what their proposed solution was, it was just pen and paper. And to me, that was crazy. Right? Everything else you buy, whether it be online purchases, even in-store purchases, it just feels like a nice sales experience. You feel handheld through the process. You have full visibility and understanding. But when it came to buying a new HVAC system, it was surprisingly opaque. It was pen and paper and it was very technical heavy. I mean, it is an incredibly technical trade, but as a homeowner, and at that point, I didn't have a lot of domain knowledge in the space, I was kind of lost. So that was one of those big genesis moments of, hey, like they're best in class cannot be paper. Best in class cannot be a PDF. What if we build a better operating system for contractors to actually sell? Let's help them grow their business and let them focus on what they're amazing at, which is that in-person relationship, not doing the back of the envelope math or calculations or Google searches and writing stuff on pen and paper. So that was kind of the early innings of Pika. Started it just about 1.5 years ago, and it's been a fun ride so far.
Awesome. Love the story. And now let's really dive into what Pika is. I still remember our first conversation, in 2024. And when you're explaining it to me, you said Service Titan is called Service Titan, not Sales Titan, because it's really, it's so powerful for all the things that we need to do to run a service business. However, even as you noted, even if you are a customer on the Service Titan side, it is still a little bit clunky. If you're a service tech on the on the Service Titan side, it's a little clunky. And to me, one of the biggest frustrations as a previous owner of a company in the trades is we never really knew what the service techs were going through from a sales standpoint because we couldn't duplicate it on our end of well, what does it look like on tap? Unless we're out there physically sitting with them, they can't just be like, hey, go in and look at this. So how does Pika kind of take all the powerful things of Service Titan or CRM, and how do you make the sales process better, not only for the technicians, but in your case, the customers as well? What does it actually do?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So I'll maybe start from the 10,000-foot view, which is Service Titan does a lot of things very well. To your point, FSMs have really crushed it when it comes to, say, inventory management, dispatch, CRM, being able to do that kind of like end to end. Hey, we've got a new customer. Let's actually dispatch someone, and someone can actually reach their front door in a very timely manner. But when it comes to that buying experience, right, we've heard a lot of pains around the lack of differentiation, the difficulty in selling on value, not price. And just the sheer fact that, hey, if you only have a good, better, best, and now these days there's a lot more leave behinds, a lot more multi-bid situations, how do you remain top of mind and continue to remain top of value from the customer, from the homeowner's perspective, even once you've left the home? So tying that back to Pika, we've got two products out today. One is that sales presentation proposal, good, better, best platform that integrates with your FSM, but just builds what we think of as the next generation digital proposal for the options, allows you to highlight your brand, highlight your guarantees, highlight the specs of the different systems, rebates, incentives, energy savings. It makes it just a much more compelling way to actually buy as a homeowner. As a homeowner, you also feel like you have more information. And then we take it a step further, right? So we calculate those rebates and incentives at the point of sale, at the kitchen table. So no more doing all the back of the envelope math. But then we realize it's kind of a pain to go file that paperwork. So then on the contractor side, we do that end-to-end automation of rebate filing, right? So you don't have to think about it. Your install coordinator doesn't have to do amount of paperwork every night. And in fact, you just get that direct deposit back into your bank account without you really having to think about it. So it's time saving. It is differentiation at the kitchen table. And the impact that we drive now across the folks we work with in 21st states is an increase in close rate and average ticket, right? Because at the fundamental core of it, we know that that is critical, right? And it's important to be able to differentiate and pitch customers on that best option versus the good or the better.
Yeah, and I love when you articulate the difference between value and price. And a lot of times it is hard to articulate that value when we're just looking at an iPad and there's like this random picture that pops up with our good option or better option might be a picture of something totally else, and then with a personalized sales process, sales presentation that's digital, the client can go through there. From what I'm gathering, the client can go through there and be like, wow, this is exactly for my home. These are the rebates I could get and all the things. And then on the back end side for the technician in the company, it's all handled as well. Because being a former owner of a trade company, a lot of times the rebates like aren't even worth our time because like we got to do all that just to get I got more important things to worry about. So that's phenomenal. I love everything you're talking about. Obviously, a lot of this is powered by AI. You have a background in AI. That's been the hot thing to talk about in the last 12 to 18 months. There's pros and cons of AI. There's new ones coming out every day. In your opinion, with your experience with Pika and even before that, where has AI been the most helpful when it comes to, customer interaction, the sales process? And then, on the flip side of that, and we can get into that separately, but sometimes it's just not helpful, but it's just like there's too much AI, too much technology, or it doesn't do what we say.
Yeah.
So what's your take on AI being helpful and not helpful in the trade process?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that I've spent a lot of time not only thinking about but also testing out. Right? I mean, one of the benefits of software is you can rapidly test these things, and we've been fortunate enough to partner with some great folks who are willing to be those kind of thought partners and brainstorming partners from the get-go. So I'll call out a couple of places where I think AI has been particularly helpful, at least for us here at Pika. The first is around personalization. So you called out, Paul, that like it's critical to be able to personalize a estimate and a quote to a customer, especially if it is a large 8, 10, 20, 30,000 sometimes job. Like the homeowner wants to feel handheld. They want to feel like, oh, wow, this person cares about me. I'm not just like another checkbox or another line item on their to-do list. They actually built this for me. And that's where AI is really helpful because when it comes to generating text that is personalized, that is human readable, but is able to take in a lot of structured input data, i.e., what is that buying factor, that key buying factor for this particular homeowner? Is it savings because money's tight, or they've got a Tesla in the driveway and environmental impact is top of mind? Generating, for example, that cover letter or that summary that is hyper personalized, that saves time. And it feels really nice as a homeowner to receive something personal like that. Another place you for a sec there.
Yeah, you back?
Oh, yeah, I'm back. Sorry. Where did I
Perfect.
cut off?
You're gonna say another.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, you just pause a second or two, then say another and keep going.
All good. Cool.
You
Another
there?
place where AI is really, really powerful is where you also have structured data, but you also have a repetitive process to be able to automate, right? And a perfect example of that is warranty applications, permit applications, rebate applications, right? It takes in information from wherever you're storing it, whether it be photos of the nameplate or information about the homeowner, the HRI number and the HRI match for that specific system. And you've got to put it in somewhere. You've got to put it in an online portal. You've got to fill out a PDF and actually send that out by snail mail. That is where AI is really helpful because doing that mapping between data input and a structured data output, that's how we're able to really scale our rebate filing platform because humans are error prone. I mean, as good as we are at critical thinking, when we do the same thing over and over and over and over again, it gets hard to ensure that accuracy. Computers don't get tired in that same way. So that is where we've also found AI to be very helpful, at least here in Pika. On the flip side, though, there's places and everyone, I think there's a lot of discourse around AI taking over the world. I mean, speaking as someone who's been working in it for a while, like it is phenomenal in a lot of ways, but there are many, many, many failure cases. I see a lot of people try to use AI completely end to end. What if we could use AI to quote, right? Or to understand what would actually work best for a particular customer. And that's where it fails because AI is domain specific, right? Or needs to be domain specific. Your general purpose models like a OpenAI's GPT or Anthropic's Claude, those are trained on a massive amount of data from Wikipedia, from online books, from YouTube, things of that nature, but it isn't focused in the trades. And it certainly isn't focused in the technicalities of something like HVAC, plumbing, electrical. So if you wanted to output something very technical, it doesn't do a great job of it. There's what's called hallucinations, where it just makes up information because it wants to please you as the person asking it a question. So it just makes up information that sounds plausible. And as a result, what we've seen value in is if you have a particular use case for AI, and especially we've seen a lot of business owners now try to start to create their own AIs to help them in their business. Having some ability to either augment it with technical context from your trade, or even what's called fine-tune the model on domain-specific, i.e. like technical information from your trade, that is critical. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of, honestly, frankly, fake information.
That is wild. I didn't know. That's crazy that it'll just, more or less make stuff up just to please you to make it sound intelligent. It's like a human. Like that's exactly what a human would do. Like if they get asked a question and they feel like they're on the hot seat, they're like, I got to answer this somehow. So that's super interesting. So I know since AI's been out, there's been people who are all in, there's people who are all out. We also know that the average age of the owner in the trades is, getting close to 60, and they're thinking nobody wants to do that. My customers won't ever want to deal with that. They want to deal with people. They want to have an invoice in their hand. The very old school thing. Whereas the next buying demographic, as we've seen, the next wave of people become homeowners and have to get their HVAC replaced and, plumbing issues and all that. How how have you seen? I mean, you guys are operating in 24 states now. You're probably dealing with owners on both scales. You're probably also answering a lot of questions on both scales. How have you seen kind of the sales process shift? Because a lot of people even just like, oh, that's way too much. I don't want to deal with it. But like, how have you seen kind of the demographics between owners, buyers, sales process, AI all kind of come in and where's that at in 2025?
It's such a good question because everyone has their own rationale for sticking with their sales process, right? And honestly, for a lot of folks, their sales process works today, right? And as a result, if it's not broken, why change and completely shake the boat and do something completely new if what works today is already working? So our thought is twofold. One is that we're not prescriptive about how you sell. Our goal is to just pull all of the information that we know you kind of need to find, right? HRI matches, getting the ground truth efficiency capacity of systems. What's the decibel rating? What's the manufacturer warranty? What's the staging of the system? rebates. We just want to pull that information, create this essentially data toolbox in the presentation that you, as a salesperson, you can choose your own adventure and picking out what to actually show the customer and how to show that to the customer. We've seen people even take our presentation, go to that good, better, best view where we've listed out all of the efficiencies and actually just print that piece of paper out and mark it up with pen and paper. That works, right? We're not going to force you to show it on a digitally native platform, especially if you're showing it to someone who maybe doesn't even have a mobile phone or an easily accessible laptop. So we know and we recognize that our platform, it needs to be inherently flexible and it needs to be able to address these changing needs, because as much as there is this growing, as you mentioned, Paul, this growing millennial and Gen Z home buying demographic, there still is a lot of the older generation that is buying and replacing systems today. So we have to be inherently flexible there. But the second part is, even within the digital side of our platform, our goal is to make it as easy as possible, right? So there is, I mean, as much as pen and paper does reign supreme in a lot of ways, and that human interaction is critical. I mean, as quick aside there, we see Pika as being complementary to humans. Like, we would never want to replace that human relationship element, because especially such a big purchase, it is critical that you trust the person you're buying from, not just trusting software to show you what's best. But when it even comes to that presentation, we're actually currently undergoing a massive refresh of the look and feel of the product. We're interviewing homeowners across the US in every demographic. We're interviewing different contractor demographics as well to understand what is the easiest and simplest way to actually show that value and show the options, but still in a way that doesn't lose fidelity. It doesn't lose information. You're still able to actually go and showcase the good, better, best with the full set of data. But there's a lot that we can do even in how the customer navigates through the presentation, or how does it appear on your phone versus appear on a desktop, right? How does it look like when it's emailed to you? All of those kind of user experience improvements we find to be critical in being able to, again, be flexible and support all types of buyer demographics and, frankly, salesperson demographics as well.
So yeah, so now that we got a really good idea of what Pika does and how they operate, and you guys have been doing it a little bit, you've been doing it long enough now. What have been some of the results you've seen as far as, hey, our average ticket went up this, our closing rate went up this, or even just general feedback from your clients when they start rolling out, this new process using technology to make their life easier?
Totally. So obviously, close rate and average ticket are critical, and they're also one of those kind of elusive metrics because there are so many things that go into influencing them, right? Even over time, it could be the weather, it could be lead generation, it could be just even how motivated a particular sales team is at a given point in time. But we've tried our best to do kind of the best fit comparisons with in-group versus out-group, comparing year over year to seasonally adjust. And what we're seeing is statistically significant lifts in both close rate and average ticket. I mean, we ran the numbers for a shop that we work with that's scaled, private equity backed, 27 percentage point lift in close rate, tied with a 7% lift in average ticket, right? So that to us is the type of impact that we want to continue to drive and really scale out across our platform, across our footprint today. But qualitatively, we've heard two things. One, from homeowners, it's like, hey, I understand what I'm buying now because you've explained it in more plain English, and it looks a lot nicer and is just a lot more differentiated from the standard good, better, best they're getting from other folks. So it just stands out, right? If you're looking at 5 different quotes, opening up 5 emails, this just looks a lot different. And that does a lot psychologically when it comes to making that buying decision. But also from the contractor side, the actual estimate creation side just saves them time, right? That time-saving element is also what is carried over into rebates. I mean, we're able to reduce the time spent on rebates by 6 to 10x. We're able to clear out year-long backlogs, $100,000 plus in rebate value alone. We can clear that out in the matters of days and weeks so that you can get paid back quicker, right? And with higher accuracy. And that is, I think, at the end of the day, it's obviously increasing top-level metrics, but it is that kind of softer benefit of time savings and accuracy as well.
Yeah, no, and I love, when you're talking about comparing other quotes, because if it's a big replacement, especially HVAC, and it's not like in the cold of the winter or the peak of the summer, if it's a shoulder season, hey, we got to get it replaced. they will, call around. And even during the peaks, they might put a Band-Aid on it, then call around. And when you can actually look at something, even if it's digital, to me, it's more tangible than just, a one-page PDF of like, oh, these are the options and this is the price versus the other one, where it's like, oh, this makes a lot more sense. I know what I'm buying. The other companies aren't doing that. So I'm going to go with these guys because the way our minds work is how you do anything is how you do everything. And these guys have been so great so far. Their proposals are better, and we're just going to go with those guys. So with that being said, we've kind of covered, from start to finish the entire sales process and, how it makes the sales, the technician's job easier, how it makes the office job easier from a rebate, how it makes the customer experience better. Out of all the things we've talked about, and you're talking to people in the trades every day, curious on, as we start to wrap this up, if there's one thing our listeners could do within the next 24 hours to move their business forward, whether it's from a technician side, sales side, customer experience side, where do you see the biggest opportunity in any organization where they could just start taking action right away?
Yeah. So in the scale of a 24-hour window, one thing, and this is more of a trick that I learned as I was doing some marketing a few years back, is just understanding how people are pitching offers, how people in your area are pitching to customers, to potential customers when it comes to outbound. And there's two things to quickly flag here. One is, I don't know if folks listening know this, but both Google and Facebook and Meta have ads transparency centers where you can actually go onto that website. You can search, let's say, HVAC in your local area, and you'll be able to see all the different ads that are currently running for HVAC from your competitors, from other manufacturers, from anyone in your area. And you can actually just understand and get a sense of how you stack up, how you compare, what are those offers looking like, and how can you be competitive, especially in shoulder seasons, right? So that's one element of kind of understanding the context around where you are today. The second is around understanding the demographic that you serve. Obviously, you've got a lot of information, I'm sure, with your existing customer base, but permits databases are actually a really rich source of information. Being able to go in and see, hey, 10 years ago, when were the last HVAC mechanical MEP permits were filed, and using that as potentially an understanding of, hey, how can I segment out my service territory into places where the average age of the home is a bit older? Maybe that's a great opportunity to do some outbounding to that particular neighborhood and kind of concerted marketing efforts there. So it's this kind of contextual awareness that we've started helping our customers with, but we found to be really meaningful.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, and I totally agree with, the Facebook and Google ads transparency. Even me, just as a consumer, if I see an ad with like a whole bunch of comments and reactions, and then you click on to see, the transparency and what ads they're running. If you see one that's been, in my opinion, if you've seen one that's been running and it says it's been running for 8 months, it's probably like that thing's probably working.
Totally.
So let's see what they're doing, who they're targeting. Let's see what the landing page looks like, the creative, all that kind of stuff. So two awesome, really bits of insight there from David. Check out the, transparency on Google, Facebook ads. And then, from a demographic standpoint, look at where permits are pulled, age of home, so you know where to better spend your marketing dollars. David Zhao with Pika. Thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your journey, and providing a ton of actionable advice, wisdom, insight into all the things we talked about: AI, sales, customer experience for the blue-collar business owners out there as we continue our journey to prosperity. But before we sign off, David, where can our listeners go, keep in touch with you, learn more about Pika and how to get involved with that?
Yeah, thanks for the great conversation, Paul. Go our website with Pika, WITHPIKA.com is the best place to see the overview of what we've built. And if you want to reach me directly, feel free to shoot me an email at david@withpika, WITHPIKA.com, and I'll promise I'll respond to you within 24 hours.
Awesome. Love the promise. And it's with Pika. Pika is Pika. Check it out, guys. Super awesome software platform that David and his team are building. David, thanks again for coming to the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.